Hello everyone, welcome to a new lecture series on various arthropathies. So, in our first lecture in this series, we covered osteoarthritis, and today we are going to discuss about rheumatoid arthritis. So, let's start with the presentation. Rheumatoid arthritis. Here, rheumatoid refers to rheumatism, which is a musculoskeletal illness. Art means joints, itis means inflammation. So, rheumatoid arthritis is a chronic inflammatory disorder in which the joints are being affected. But along with joints, even other organ systems like skin and lungs are also being involved in this disease. Rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disease in which the normal immune response is directed against an individual's own tissue, including joints, tendons, bones, resulting in inflammation and destruction of these tissues. So, rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disorder. What happens in autoimmune disorders? Our immune system is directed against our own tissues. So, in rheumatoid arthritis, our immune response is directed against joints, tendons, and bones, which will result in inflammation and destruction of these tissues. So, this disease is characterized by persistent inflammatory synovitis, which will lead to cartilage damage, bone erosions, joint deformity, and disability. So, this is normal synovial joint. This is a knee joint, which are a healthy joint is made up of two bones, which is covered by articular cartilage at the end. This articular cartilage is a type of connective tissue which acts as a protective cushion so that two bones can glide against each other without any friction. Along with the articular cartilage, one more important part of the synovial joint is synovial membrane. So these two bones are combined with, joined with fibrous joint capsule. They are connected with fibrous joint capsule. And this fibrous joint capsule is lined by synovial membrane. So this is synovial membrane. On the surface of the synovial membrane, there exist two types of cells, type A cells and type B cells. Type A cells are responsible to remove debris. It actually clears cellular debris, and type B cells are responsible to produce contents of synovial fluid. And this synovial fluid is actually a viscous jelly-like fluid which lubricates this articular surfaces, articular cartilage. Along with the cells, the synovial membrane also contains lymphatics and blood vessels. So this is all about synovial joint, a normal synovial joint. Now we will see the pathophysiology of rheumatoid arthritis. So rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disorder which actually begins as a result of interaction between genetic factors and environmental factors. For an example, person with some immune proteins, some gene immune proteins like HLA-DR1 and HLA-DR4 are more prone to develop these diseases. So person with these genes, if they are exposed to the environmental factors like cigarette smoking and some pathogens like gut bacteria or some other pathogens, so what will happen? This environmental factors, these causes will modify our own antigens such as IgG antibodies, type 2 collagen and vimentin. So a person with this susceptibility genes, if they are exposed to the environmental factors like cigarette smoking and if they are infected with some pathogens, then these pathogens or this environmental factors will modify our own antigens like IgG antibodies, type 2 collagen and vimentin. So this type 2 collagen and vimentin are modified by the process called citrullination. So what happens in citrullination? Actually, this type 2 collagen and vimentin are the protein which contains an amino acid like arginine. So in this process, this arginine is converted into another amino acid called citrulline. So by this citrullination process, this type 2 collagen and vimentin are being modified. So the person with this susceptibility genes, their immune system is not clever enough to recognize these changes made by the process called citrullination. So by this process, this vimentin and type 2 collagen, they are being modified. The arginine is converted into citrulline. So this immune system is not the person with this susceptibility genes. Their immune system is not clever enough to recognize these changes as normal. So what will happen? This immune system will react against it. So this immune system will respond and against this they will recognize this as a self antigen, and these antigens will be picked up by antigen presenting cells, and this will be carried to the lymph nodes. In lymph nodes, it activates CD4 T helper cells. So this antigen presenting cells, they activate CD4 T helper cells in the lymph nodes. These T helper cells stimulate surrounding B cells, and these B cells are proliferated and differentiated into plasma cells. Now these plasma cells will produce specific antibodies. So this is how the autoantibodies are being produced against IgG, against Fc portion of modified IgG, and against citrullinated proteins. So there are two types of autoantibodies which are being formed. One is rheumatoid factor. This rheumatoid factor is actually IgM antibody which are formed against Fc domain of IgG, modified IgG antibodies. And the second is anti-CCP antibodies, which are directed or which are formed against citrullinated proteins, which are vimentin and collagen, type 2 collagen. So now what will happen? These antibodies, autoantibodies and T helper cells will come into the circulation, and through circulation it will reach to the joint space. So first of we'll see what happens with the T cells here. These T cells, after reaching to this joint space, they will secrete cytokines like interferon gamma and interleukin 17. Now, these cytokines will recruit some more immune cells like macrophages, and these macrophages will produce more cytokines like interleukin 1, interleukin 6 and TNF alpha. So these cytokines along with T cell cytokines, they will proliferate this synovial membrane, synovial cells. So here synovial cells will be proliferated. So along with synovial cells and immune cells, they will create the pannus formation. What is pannus? It is a thick, swollen synovial membrane with granulation or scar tissue. And this granulation scar tissue is made up of fibroblast, myofibroblast and inflammatory cells. So, this over time damage to cartilage, other soft tissue and erode bone. They will activate the synovial cells, and the synovial cells will secrete proteases, and these proteases will break down the cartilage. Here you can see the cartilage is being severely damaged by the proteases which are secreted by synovial cells. Now, in addition, these inflammatory cytokines will increase the protein on the surface of T cells known as rank L. Rank L means receptor activator of nuclear factor kappa B ligand. Now this rank L allows the T cells to bind with rank protein which is present on the surface of osteoclast. So after their binding, this osteoclast will get activated and they will start the osteoclastic activity. So there will be breakdown of bone. So this here you can see the bones are being eroded. Even the breakdown of bones is being started. So along with the damage of articular cartilage, even there will be the destruction of bones, breakdown of bones. Now, we have seen about the T cells, both pathophysiology, both the changes occurs in the joint due to arrival of T cells into the joint space. Now we'll see about the autoantibodies. After reaching to this joint space, this autoantibodies targets bind with their targets, like this rheumatoid factor, which is a IgM antibody directed against Fc domain of altered IgG. So this IgM, which is known as rheumatoid factor, this is bind with altered IgG and will form immune complex. In the same way, the anti-CCP antibodies will bind with the citrullinated proteins, and in such a way they will form immune complexes. Now, this formation of immune complexes will activate the complement system, which is a group of 9 small proteins which activates an enzymatic cascade which promotes joint inflammation and injury. So, chronic inflammation will cause angiogenesis, means formation of new blood vessels. Now, this formation of new blood vessels will activate more inflammatory cells to come into the play. In such a way, as disease progresses, multiple joints will be affected on both the sides. They will get inflamed and gradually will be destroyed. Now, the thing is, these inflammatory cytokines which are present in the joint space, they are not restricted to this tight joint space. What happens? They will reach to many organs by the circulation, through the circulation. They will target multiple organ system, and there will be extra articular manifestation of this disease. For example, if this interleukin 1 and interleukin 6 will reach to the brain, then they will act as a pyrogen and will induce fever. In such a way, if they reach to the skeletal muscles, then they will start the protein breakdown. If they reach to the skin and some visceral organs, then they will produce rheumatoid nodules. These rheumatoid nodules are actually a collection of macrophages and lymphocytes with central area of necrosis. If they reach to the lung, they will damage interstitium there. There, the fibroblast in the interstitium will get activated and proliferated, and there will be generation of scar tissue. The lung tissue will be fibrosed, due to which the gas exchange in the alveolar will not take place easily, will get hampered. Even the pleural cavities, it will get inflamed and it will cause pleurisy, which will convert it into pleural effusion. If they are reached to the lung, then if they are reached to the liver, then liver will produce high amount of hepcidin, which is a protein which causes decreased serum iron by inhibiting its absorption through gut and trapping it into the macrophages and hepatocytes. This inflammatory cytokines will also reach to the blood vessels, where they will cause different forms of vasculitis, which will promote formation of atheromas and various fibrofatty plaques. So these are the extra articular manifestation of rheumatoid arthritis. If we talk about the clinical manifestation of this disease, then multiple joints, usually more than or equal to five joints, will be affected symmetrically, means both sides of joints will be affected. If we talk about the most common joints which are being involved in this disease, then these are the metacarpophalangeal joints, proximal interphalangeal joints, and metatarsophalangeal joints. As the disease worsens, even large joints will get affected, like shoulder joint, elbows, knees, ankles, etc. This disease comes in flares, means there will be sudden worsening of this disease, and these joints will be swollen, warm, red, and painful. The person will experience morning stiffness, which generally comes after inactivity. And this morning stiffness will remain for more than 30 minutes or more than 1 hour. This is the relative incidence of joint involvement in rheumatoid arthritis. We talk about metacarpophalangeal and proximal interphalangeal joints of hand and feet, metatarsophalangeal joints of feet. Then 90% involvement incidence is there. Knees and ankles and wrists 80%, shoulders are affected in 60% of cases, elbows in 50%, and this acromioclavicular joints affected in 30% of cases. Now, if we talk about deformities which takes place in the hands, then there will be ulnar deviation. So these fingers will be deviated towards ulnar end. So here you can see this. This is the ulnar deviation of fingers. This is the Butternia deformity, in which there is flexion of proximal interphalangeal joint and hyperextension of distal interphalangeal joint. So this is Butternia deformity, and this is swan neck deformity, in which there is flexion of distal interphalangeal joint and hyperextension of proximal interphalangeal joint. So in long term, if this disease persists, then the person may develop such deformities like ulnar deviation, Butternia deformity, swan neck deformity. See, this is the proximal interphalangeal joint swelling. In these two fingers, it's more evident. This is ulnar deviation of right hand. Here, metacarpophalangeal swelling, and in the left hand, you can see this swelling of wrist joint. See, this is swan neck deformity and this is Butternia deformity. They are opposite to each other. See, here there is hyperextension of distal interphalangeal joint, and here hyperextension of sorry. Here there is flexion of in swan neck deformity. There is flexion of distal interphalangeal joint and hyperextension of proximal interphalangeal joint. Whereas in Butternia deformity, there is flexion of proximal interphalangeal joint and hyperextension of distal interphalangeal joint. A person suffering from rheumatoid arthritis may develop Baker's cyst, which is also known as popliteal cyst. So this is actually a fluid filled sac behind your knee. So the synovial sac bulges posteriorly, posterior to the knee. This is known as Baker's cyst or popliteal cyst. So, extra-articular manifestation of this disease is fever, low appetite, malaise, weakness, etc. The person may develop rheumatoid nodules. There will be increased risk of atherosclerosis. The person may be prone to the heart attack and stroke. Person may develop anemia. There will be interstitial lung fibrosis, pleural effusion, etc. As a complication of this disease, person may develop Fabry syndrome, which is actually a combination. This is a triad of rheumatoid arthritis, splenomegaly, and granulocytopenia, mainly neutropenia. This is a life-threatening infection. So this is the ACR Euler criteria of diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis. So this is in this criteria, mainly there are 4 factors are considered for the diagnosis. First is joint involvement, second is serology, third is acute phase reactants, and the fourth is duration of symptoms. So on the basis of these 4 criteria, this disease is being scored. So if any one large joint is involved, then there will be 0 score. If 2 to 10 large joints are affected, then you may give 1 score to it. If 1 to 3 small joints with or without involvement of large joints are there, then you will get score 2. 4 to 10 small joints are involved, then person may get score 3. But if more than 10 joints are involved, and in it at least one small joint is involved, then that person will get 5 score. Serology, in rheumatoid factor and anti-CCP antibodies. Among these, at least the person should go through one investigation. If there is negative rheumatoid factor and negative anti-CCP antibodies, then the person will get 0 score. If low positive rheumatoid factor or low positive anti-CCP antibodies, then the person will get score 2. If high positive rheumatoid factor and high positive anti-CCP antibody, presence of high positive anti-CCP antibodies, the person will get score 3. Acute phase reactants like CRP and ESR, if they are normal, then the person will get 0 score, and if CRP and if abnormal CRP and normal ESR, then the person will get score 1. If duration of the symptoms is less than 6 weeks, then the person will get 0 score, and if it is more than or equal to 6 weeks, then the person will get score 1. So this is total score of 10. And out of this 10, if person gets more than or equal to 6 score, then the diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis is confirmed. If we talk about blood investigation, the person is advised rheumatoid factor, anti-CCP antibodies, and imaging techniques in which X-ray is being advised, in which you will see the low bone density, bony erosions, narrowing of the joint space, and soft tissue swelling. Thank you.